Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And before I introduce my guest, I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my good friend Preston Poulter, who has a book coming out, Palace of the Golden Princess, which offers a fun, sexy romp through a fantasy RPG setting run by women. Issue 3 launches soon on Kickstarter, and right now Preston is doing me a favor by offering a free PDF of issue 1 if you sign up for his email list at pocketjackcomics.com so that you can try it before you buy it, as well as by another good friend of mine, JD Rosario with Limbo. Check out Limbo now. Limbo open to almost all of Eternity 1 and 2, where you will find demons, breasts, booze, hell freezing over, and not safe for work covers, a comic book too naughty not to be nice. And I know a bunch of stretch goals were just unlocked with that book. So that's to be on the lookout for both of those books. But enough about them, because I have with me comic creator Mindy Wheeler. So welcome back to the show.
Hello. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited to have you back on. Obviously, you got a Kickstarter going on with Boobs issue 2. And I think it is funded right now on Kickstarter. I think it's overfunded is a safe assumption here. It might be double deed funded, if I will. But anyway, all jokes aside, for those who have never heard about this book before, and a lot of people have heard about it, people have mixed feelings about it. I'll tell you that, which I find is to be interesting. But they feel it's a little too feminine. No. But all jokes aside, what is the basic premise for those who have actually heard nothing about this book or haven't seen it around in a while?
Well, it's a comedy. It's totally ridiculous, right? As you might have guessed by the title, but it's a lot of just jokes after jokes after jokes, pulling from a lot of personal experience, actually, in the comic book industry. It kind of makes fun of the whole industry, honestly, from the perspective of a cosplayer in the convention scene. And the characters are over the top ridiculous. The cosplayer is ridiculous herself, very ditzy. But you're about to learn her backstory here in a little bit of 2, much more of 3. That'll be fun. And then we have Gaylord von Schlauber, who's a ridiculous internet trash talking extraordinaire, the antagonist. Very flamboyantly, one of my favorite characters, actually. Yes, antagonist. And then Sum Chai, the supporting role, who is he's from Thailand. Yes, he's from Thailand. He's a photographer. He's pervy. He loves boobs. And they just happen to meet, and their sort of crash landing meeting happened in the first book, and that was a lot of fun. So now this second issue is full of shocks and awe and ridiculous over the top scenes, and you'll see. You either love it or you don't, but I find that the people that love it really do enjoy it and think it's really funny. So yep, that's what the book is.
Yeah, let's actually talk about this, because I like satire. I'm a big fan of a lot of things like dirty realism and satire. One of my favorite books of all time that I've read in probably the last 5 years was Razor Girl, by Carl Hansen or Hennison. I don't know how to say his name. Great book. The whole thing was ridiculousness and absurdity is what it was. Great ending, great book. You knew that it was all going to tie together, like this part and that part were all going to fit in. Brilliant writer. Probably one of the best writers ever on the way he just writes. But what is that like? Because I feel like in comics in particular, people either know how to do satire, know how to do comedy, or they don't. And because if you do a comedy bit and you're a comedian and it's not working, you could change in the middle. In a comic, you don't have that option. And it also, I feel, gets more scrutinized than a movie. And there's, I guess I feel like it's either hit or miss in a comic.
The way I think about it is kind of like writing a South Park episode. And I compare it to that a lot. And some people, I don't know, I guess some people might not like it. I really don't hear from them very often, though. But should someone get offended or don't like it or not think it's funny, they probably don't have any sense of humor. Because really, it's so like lighthearted and punchy. It's like South Park, where everything is up for grabs. Everything is on the table to be made fun of. And if you can't find humor in those things, then I don't know what I can do for you, but it's a lot of fun.
Let's talk about this because there's a lot of stuff in cosplay. Cosplay is a very cheerful world. It's a very fucked up, dark, I'm gonna stab you bitch in the head world too. Without a doubt. I don't know how many cosplayers you have had off the record conversations with. I've had enough that I know, and a bunch of them are not gonna like me saying this, but there are enough of them where they have real issues behind the scenes. And then there's other issues where I had a disabled cosplayer on a cosplayer who has a very significant disability, and even she was explaining other dark things. So obviously in the con scene, that's just one element of it. In the comic scene, there's both the cheerful stuff and the dark stuff, and then there's just things that happen at a con that are funny. So what is that like too? Because that's a main central theme of at least issue 2, is a bunch of stuff happens at this con that also is relevant, that if you're in the industry or you're a fan, you might be able to relate to. So what is that like too? Because I think that's something that's very interesting about your book is if you've never been to a con, or you're not in the industry, or you're not a mega fan, or even a regular might be a good word to use at this, ever been to at least one con, you might not get some of this. But if you've been to one con and you've been to like 10, even as a fan, I mean, you see things that are kind of funny.
I think the more experience you have as a fan, especially, the more you'll find this book funny. And so the levels of appreciation like get deeper and deeper. People have told me from reading the book, the first one, oh, I totally know that guy, or this guy, I've been that guy, and they can relate to the characters, which I think is fun. And I think that will just become more so as time goes on. As far as writing it, I have a rule. If it makes us laugh, it goes in the book. So it comes from a place of laughter. It doesn't come from a place of struggling to find things that are funny. It just is funny to us. And so you're either going to like our humor or not. But we've been in the industry for 10 years-ish, going to cons, and things that we've found funny this whole time are making it into the book. And I think that's appreciated more so than not, honestly. As far as cosplayers and the dark side, I don't know many cosplayers personally to know that, but I have a good guess based on, I guess I'll just say, personal life experience growing up kind of around that crowd. I have a good feeling of what I think might be the dark spots, and I've kind of been through some of those myself, perhaps. But she's sort of isolated in the story. She's the only cosplayer at the moment, and it's following her, and she's kind of new into the cosplay scene too. So from personal experience as an artist, it's a lot of trolling has happened to me. A lot of bullying has happened. I've been through a lot of crap, a lot from other creators and stuff. So that's a lot of the experience I'm pulling from in her story, is kind of my own dark side of the industry, which I don't know how the cosplayers would feel about it. I'd be more than happy to hear it out and see what kind of crap they're going through. But it's based more on the crap that I've been through as an artist.
Let's just say The Bachelor, with the top 20 cosplayers, or out of the top 50, we could pick the top 20 or 20 out of them on the female side, would be one hell of a show. It would dwarf every other season by miles. And that poor man who would have to pick one, God bless his soul, he would be not doing anybody a favor, including himself. And the $1 million that you win at the end would just not be worth it. It would just not be worth it. You'd be like, guys, can you just have the $1 million back? Can I just leave? It would be great. It would be excellent television, is all I'm going to say. And absolutely, I will be an executive producer. So if somebody would like me to set that up, volunteer my time 100%. Don't worry, guys. I root for the fans here, and I'm all for entertainment. But I digress. I digress. You actually mentioned something really interesting in which that you obviously, and I think it's well documented, some of what you've been through, and we spoke about it, and I don't want to rehash it, but I do think it is important when you write authentically. So every time I talk about money or I talk about something that I actually care about, and I was on an interview with Preston, and like we started talking about cryptocurrency, you can just see it. You can see it in my eyes where like I get really excited for like a good like 5 minutes, where my body language changed, and it's something that I enjoy talking about. Every time I'm on a podcast with money and I'm being interviewed, you could tell that I'm always excited. And sometimes the host starts, I'm taking a chance here, and then they see how excited I am. Like, I made a good call. So what is that like though? Because I do think it does resonate. And I think a lot of creators sometimes do not know how to create authentic. And it's a real issue. And at this stage, and sorry for rambling everybody, but I feel that if you're not writing from what you know, or even any experience, or even an ounce of experience of it, or some connection in, it sort of gets, I guess comes out.
I completely agree with that. And I think that's what makes it good. And honestly, I think that's, well, I shouldn't say that. But absolutely right, authentically. I've spent almost 10 years writing another series. And basically, not basically, everything I do is I pull from experience. I just think that's the way to do it. I don't know. And the problem, I think, with a lot of empty stories is exactly what you said. They don't know how to put themselves in it. And yeah, there's such a thing as maybe bland, boring self-insertion. Some people don't like that. But at the same time, you need to self-insert mentally into the characters to understand them. So yeah, absolutely. I everything we do is very authentically done. I wouldn't have it any other way, because I don't know, it would be a struggle to do it anyways. I'd feel like it'd be a lie.
So to even go further into this, because obviously what's been making the rounds is this discussion of generic stories versus original stories. And look, I'll be honest, everybody. I mean, I have no problem with a generic story if you tell me what it is, what I'm getting. If you say, these people are bad over here, they killed my father, and my goal is to kill them, that is a very generic story that's been told over and over again. But if that's what I'm in the mood for that day, and I'm in plenty of days, I've been in the mood for something like that. And in fact, most days I'm in the mood for something like that, that I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think your book doesn't, I mean, I don't want to say your book's generic, but it at least represents what it is. And I think this is a big issue right now in comics, in particular, how I feel going through Kickstarters and interviewing. I'm like, you don't represent what your book is. To the whole community. What I find is at least 50%, if not more, does not represent what their book is. And now I go back to your Kickstarter, I'm expecting A, I get B, and it's really C. And I'm like, you should have just said it was C, and I would have at least known, and then I would have probably half the time I would have backed your book anyway. But at least I would have known that I'm getting C, not thinking it was looking like A, you advertising this B, and getting C and being pleasantly surprised or unpleasantly surprised.
Yes. Well, that's just probably because you're dealing with the indie scene, and lack of experience in marketing is probably what that could be. And some of the best stories are written by people who have the experience, even though it might fit into a generic framework. Like Charles Schule, Daredevil, he was a lawyer. So, right? So that's a perfect guy to write that book. But I think it can still be generic as long as you you understand how to write a story. So there is an actual way to write a story correctly, and then there's ways to write them badly. And that just is basic, like just learning writing.
I agree. So I'm a huge Gun Honey fan. Gun Honey is not original. Gun Honey is a generic story through and through. Am I thoroughly entertained? Unbelievably entertained. Do I enjoy every single cover that comes out with Gun Honey? Do I try to click them all? Oh, I love it. It's like a scavenger hunt for me. It's so much fun. So I get to hunt covers down. I get to read a good, fun story that's like a gun blazing fight of revenge and other things going on. And I know what I'm going to get. And that's why I like it, because it hits legitly so many notches. And then there's like, oh man, I don't have this cover. Oh shit, that's an awesome cover. And then it just like revitalizes on so many levels. And Titan did a fantastic job with that because they hit every niche of generic, fun, basic storytelling with collectible covers combined. But I feel in the indie scene, this is just how I feel. I'm curious how you feel about it. Is I feel people feel like I can't advertise a generic story because then I won't get funded. And they want to get their book funded. They pumped 3Gs into it already. They really need 6, and they're terrified of losing their $3,000 versus saying, let me be honest about it and let me see if this actually works in the marketplace. And then when it comes to issue 2 or issue 3, they have a harder time. Sometimes those books don't do as well as issue 1 because everybody figured out what it was. And I'm not talking about anybody specifically. I mean, I can name 20 people off the top of my head if I really wanted to right now who have this problem. And there's more than 20. And so I'm curious what you feel about that, because that's what I've discovered in probably the last 3 or 4 years as an interviewer. And it really makes it hard sometimes to figure out, cool, who should I have on my show and why should I have them on my show? And so I have a very different viewpoint on this, because I don't have a problem interviewing somebody who has a generic story. I have a problem with somebody saying, this is the next big thing. And it's got this thing. And I'm like, it's about a boy whose father was killed and he wants revenge at its core. And it's just like, you should have said that. And he also has magical powers that can shoot lightning out of his eyes. Now you got me interested.
It sounds like it's their own maybe marketing issues. And sure, you have to feel out the market. That could be an issue. There could be less of a market for generic stories in indie comics. But also, if you're never making any generic stories, there's going to be less of a market for it. So, J.K. Rowling wasn't the first author to create a book about a wizard boy that goes to wizard school. She just did it better.
Who was that stolen from? That's a great question.
I don't remember the name. I don't. But it's been, I think it's been done more than once before her. Also, the Hunger Games author, there was a almost exact same story. In fact, I think that she was accused of straight up ripping it. A Japanese anime, I think, story called
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. So it just, anybody can do anything. And I mean, and you also see all kinds of parodies in indie comics where they're taking already existing IPs of Nintendo games or Marvel and DC stuff and creating their own spin on it, parody spin, and selling that. Personally, I don't think that's an indie comics issue to just have a generic story problem. What you're doing is you're competing against the larger markets that already have a grip on generic stories and do them well. So it's just a harder sell probably. And so you just have to work on that. And as an artist, I know that drawing my own characters are a harder sell than drawing a original sketch of Batman, because everybody already knows Batman. So it's just a problem. You just got to keep at it, grow your audience, and also honestly market your product. If someone's not honestly marketing their product, then that sucks for fans, and for us, fans are the top priority. So I try to be the best I can with them and as honest as I can with them, and that helps.
Do you feel, because this is how I feel right now, at the very least, is that and this is maybe happened to me in the last 2 years, is that I don't really appreciate when people are dishonest with me. I really don't. And there's been plenty of people who have made promises to me, say, I'm going to send you a book, and they never do. There's been plenty of people who have say, Andrew, what's your address? Thanks for having me on the show. I'm going to send you a package. They never do. There's been plenty of people who have been on my show who have shows and they never extend an invitation back. And they don't get a call back so quickly. and it's because when somebody says, I'm going to take care of you, let me know how I'm going to take care of you. And look, sometimes I'll ask. Sometimes I'll say, hey, do you know anybody? Could you hook me up? Could you help me out? I'm looking to interview this person. You work with them. Just put in a good word for me. And sometimes people help. And there's been plenty of people who are the nicest people in the world, and they want you to be successful because they're successful. And they say, cool, when I need a favor, I know that I'm going to hit you up and you're going to deliver. So the point though is that I think that I don't know how you feel, but whenever I get a dishonest product, it is a turnoff. And I think that I can't be the only one in indie comics who feels that way or in comics in general. And I think there's been a shift. I really do. And I think people are waking up, and I think quote unquote people are not drinking the Kool-Aid.
Hmm.
And I'm curious how you feel, because I'm looking at this both on a business level for my eBay store, and I don't take many people on a retail level, and I actually vet who I buy from. If I found out somebody is a horrible human being and doesn't pay their artists and doesn't take care of the people they work for, or they treat people horribly at cons, and I have a retail deal with them, that's definitely going to affect my decision. I'm going to have to say, what do I do here? Do I continue? Do I not continue? It's going to make me stop, not end a relationship, but make me stop,
Hmm.
because it's an issue of integrity. And I think that's starting to come out a lot more.
Yeah, I think so too. We comment on that in Boobs too. The late books, and Boobs one. Um, yeah, I think that I think there's been a lot of scams. I will use that word, and I think what qualifies as a scam is when you have to wait for 3-4 years for your book. If you ever get it at all. And that's the thing. A lot of people aren't even getting it at all, or they get it damaged. It's just bad. It's been a time of bad customer service in indie comics. We fulfilled very quickly. We had very good compliments on our packaging, very, very little problems, and that made people happy. So that's how I would want to be treated. So that's how we treat people. I think I wouldn't have it any other way. In fact, you can go to my Kickstarter and see that I haven't backed anybody else on Kickstarter, and that's because I don't want to play that game. There's very few other creators I personally support. And I have not backed any other Kickstarter projects in comic books. So
It's interesting. I get criticized for that. And my response back to people who criticize me for that is to say, look, I'm extremely selective. It's both an economic choice. I have other economic requirements outside of Kickstarter for people. Obviously, I have a financial commitment to myself, to my retirement. I have things that I would like to deal with. I also have other hobbies outside of this. I have a commitment to my business. So I can't back everybody's campaign. And I'm like, people go back 500, 600, 700 Kickstarters. I'm like, that's a lot of things to back. Even if you're backing only $1, it's a lot of freaking projects to have in your repertoire. That you're
it is, and I don't mind if it's a fan. If they want to buy 500 books, if they're a reader, well, heck, that's awesome. But other creators having that obligation, that expectation of me, I totally don't even play with, like, don't even get involved in that game. I'm pretty independent when it comes to the circle of creators, and the people I do support, they already know that I do, because we're on like a first name basis, and we chat on Messenger. So there's no like need for me to go out of my way and for the good look of it, for the perception. For some reason, like I was told by some marketing company at one point, oh, you must back, as running a Kickstarter, that I have to go back other campaigns because for some reason that creates a perception thing, but I don't care. So the people who I support know I support them, and we're cool, and that's good enough for me.
This is interesting, because I'm actually a strong believer that if you're going to run a Kickstarter, you should back at least 10. And here's why. I think you should get the experience, right? Because I think you should understand. I'm a strong believer that if you run a company and you're the CEO, you should, be in the stock room, in the mail room. You should be doing marketing. You should be doing sales. You should be putting up flyers. You should spend a day in graphics. I'm not saying you have to be good at it. I'm saying you should understand it.
Mm.
And I think with Kickstarter is that I think people who run really good campaigns, for the most part, not all, but they have spent time and have experienced good and bad campaigns. When you get
Mhm.
a book that's damaged, it's not a fun experience. When you get a book that's perfect and you can tell the person took the time and the effort and they got it to you quickly and they stayed up till 4 in the morning on their Saturday to get it done, guess what? You know what is that's a good experience. And so I'm a strong believer that you should back at least 10. So you have a sample of what's done right, what's done wrong, as well as I think that people should be aware of what's out in the market. I was listening to somebody and I thought the guy was a moron for it. He's like, I don't back anybody's campaign. I'm like, don't you want to at least sample the market 10 times a year and you're an artist? Like,
Mhm.
shouldn't you be at least backing 10, spend 150 bucks, chalk it up as marketing and research, R&D, and just have your foot in there from 10 different projects that you might not even like, but just say, this is interesting how this person did this. I just backed the book and the stretch goals were phenomenal. And I can't wait to get them because I'm so curious that I don't know how the person is making any money, but they did 50,000. And if you reach 50,000, everybody would have gotten a second copy of any book they wanted on the campaign in regular edition.
Wow. Hmm.
But like
Nice.
there's like some free metal cards in there that you could choose from, and it was wonderful. It was an absolutely awesome experience,
Oh
and
yeah.
like it was so community oriented, the
Mhm.
whole thing, and people were like commenting in like the discussion. It was great, and like guys should create a Discord. I paid $10 to join that Discord every single month.
Wow. That's awesome.
But like that's how if I run a campaign ever, that's the type of thing I want to do because I think it'll create value. If I didn't sample and took a risk on that, I would have never been privileged to that. And that's
Mhm.
why I think that people should back. I really do. I'm not saying go spend $900 every month, but if you spend 150 bucks, chalk it up to R&D.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll take that. I will take that and I will improve. There are people that I have become aware of that I didn't know before all this that I found through Kickstarter, other creators that we've talked to and or I've talked to and done like little cross promotions and stuff. And so that's been cool. That's been a good experience. So yeah, I will take that and I will
I'll
improve on that.
I'll throw something even crazier. I'm like I just had Steve Stern on, who did Zen, the Intergalactic Ninja Zen. If
Hmm.
it wasn't because of Kickstarter, I would have never been introduced to him and Lamar Supreme.
Hmm.
And Lamar Supreme has done things for Wu Tang. He's done things for other musical bands. He's done stuff for Tops. And so, all of a sudden I'm just scrolling through Kickstarter. I see this. I'm like, man, this thing looks awesome. This book looks sick. Like, what is this book? And then I just reached out and like, yeah, let's do this. I didn't exactly know who Steve Stern was at first, but I'm also like, this is what I mean by sampling is that book is from 1993, but it's an old school book being remastered, and that's why I think that it's so like moronic, in my opinion, not to go out and not to, at least explore and back a few. Because what if something is 30 years old and it's being remastered? I mean, if you like old comics, I mean, like that's my whole thing is that I just think it's really, really, really short sighted not to go and take $150 risk on 10 projects a year on Kickstarter or 9 or 7. I think because I just think it just makes you actually less competitive.
Hmm. That's good advice. Okay, you've convinced me.
Like, I understand that I might get flack for that. If you love
Hmm.
comics and you're a huge fan, go spend more money. But I think if you are a creative and you're doing comics, I think you need to have an R&D budget. I really do.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm an interviewer. I'm privileged where I do a lot of homework and I spend a lot of time on Kickstarter doing research. But if I was, when I create my book, I'm going to be backing certain people's campaigns that I want to emulate. Or if I know somebody's a really shitty creator, I'm going to back their campaign to know what not to do. And people laugh, but this is how I learn. This is
Mhm.
exactly how I learn. So I've learned all my life is through emulation and understanding why did this work? Why did this fail? And
Hmm.
I don't see how Kickstarter is any different as an entity. If a Kickstarter does $250,000 in comics, everybody should try to copy that Kickstarter. If a Kickstarter looks great and it did 8 grand and barely made it across the line, people should say, why did it do 8 grand? What went wrong with that campaign? What went right with this campaign? Why did the $8,000 campaign, which I thought was a better story, fucking flop against a $100,000 book?
I agree. In my defense, I do research and I do look at other people's campaigns. I just don't spend money on them. But
Terrible.
but I do a fair share. You've convinced me though. It is worth looking into the experience because it is tiring to run a campaign. That's something I feel I probably could have done better so far with Boobs too, and I'm taking efforts now to step that up a little bit because I've been really tired. And actually had heat stroke like a week ago, and it took like 4 days, 5 days to get back on my feet. So the first campaign was there was so much energy all the time. It was very bubbly. I think we did do a very good job at the whole experience, all the way through. But this campaign, I've been a little less talkative, and which is ironic because we hit bigger numbers sooner. Now, well, we closed at a larger number at 27 or 28,000 with Boobs 1. Right now we're at almost 15 with Boobs 2, and we're like 15 days in. But I haven't spoken as much because there has been less to speak about, I think. But that's something I've been wanting to improve lately. I do go on everybody's Kickstarter's campaigns and look at them all the time. And today I changed the whole campaign page actually to reflect what I could do better, what I thought needed improvement. So yeah, there's always room to learn. I think I don't know, you talked to a lot of indie creators. I have a lot of experience in retail and marketing, so that's probably why I feel a little bit safer doing things kind of my way, but there's always room for improvement. And so I'll take you up on that offer. I'll go back some projects. I don't want to.
I mean,
But
look,
I will.
I pick and choose what I want to back, but I also, so Steve Stern is not a newbie, right? Not by any stretch of the imagination. Guy's been doing Zen for forever. I mean, Zen has an NES game. I mean, this should give everybody an idea where Zen Intergalactic Ninja has been in NES games, has been licensed, has been all over, and has been in comics for like 25, 27 years. So Steve Stern is not new to comics. Lamar Supreme is not new to the graphic art design world in any stretch of the imagination. And this is a book that is Lamar Supreme's first, work in comics. So I said, this book is awesome. I had a great interview with them, and I said, I got to back this book just to be an act of goodwill. But I also want a relationship with Steve Stern and Lamar. And it goes a long way when you back somebody's book for $50 if you want a lifelong relationship with people. So I have no qualms admitting that if I want a relationship with somebody, I will back their book. I'll say it right now. I really enjoyed speaking to Kyle Willis. I want a relationship with Kyle. I think I sort of have one with him, but I backed his book anyway because it just strengthens that relationship. It was a $15 book. If I can buy goodwill for $15, that is a very low cost, extremely low cost. And I have no problem saying that publicly with people. If I feel I need to buy goodwill with people, I will buy it. And
You're right.
People have bought goodwill with me in a lot of ways. And there are people I've introduced them to people that have helped them massively. So yeah, it's, and this is just business. It's just business. It's nothing but business. When I buy, I mean, I'm looking forward to Kyle's book, but it is a business move without a doubt. It has other advantages beyond business, but it's an act of really goodwill, and it's an act of saying, hey, I really appreciate you coming on my show.
It's cool. I wonder if anybody's ever business backed my book.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe.
But this is where I think a lot of creators don't understand is that if I back somebody's book, I'm like, love your book, just backed it, would love to help push it out more and interview you. Hopefully somebody's paying attention on Kickstarter or in their email saying, just backed your book, would love to have you on my show. I'm so excited to read it. Would you like to do an interview? And That also sometimes helps. Or you know what it is? Say, hey, I just bought your T-shirt. Who's a wrestler? Would love to have you on my show. You know that helps too because it's just an entry point for me.
That makes sense. I uh I know when people's names come across on the backer list and I look at them, I recognize them more. And because I care about doing right by them, I can tell you that goes a long way. I could see that working very well. And especially if they are a return backer, that the more that it's called touches in marketing. The more you touch, the more I see their name, the more I interact with them, the closer I know them. So yeah, definitely. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how it works.
In
So
which that I have very different opinions than other people. Puts me at odds with people, and there's a saying where you can either earn your way in or you could buy your way in, and I've done both. So people don't like that. There are people who I will not have on my show, but they could buy their way onto my show without a doubt. Also, you could buy convenience, and there's people who get a fast pass because they've been supportive in the past. You know, I have friends who send me free books all the time. If they have something they need urgent, they'll get a fast pass. If I have to do an interview on a Friday night, which I don't want to do, I will do an interview on a Friday night. If I need to do an interview on a Saturday at 4 in the morning, we'll do it at 4 in the morning. Won't be happy about it, but we'll do it. But then if somebody who didn't have that or doesn't want to build relationships with me, there you go. It's a choice. And if you need something urgent, well, it's pricey.
that's pretty similar to how we think. I agree with it. We tend to have a little different opinions too sometimes. But it's actually hard, I've found, to find people that think like that. You take care of me, I take care of you kind of thing in a more business sense. It is hard to find that.
It's not hard at all for me. It's
Oh,
you
well,
you hit me up whenever you need an interview, and that's all you hit me up for. Why should I have you on my show? Usually when that question comes up, you're like, usually one or two things happen. They're like, you know what, you're right. How do we fix this? or secondly, what happens is that they leave, and you slowly eliminate bad people in this. And
right.
maybe this is why I have a slightly problematic reputation, so I don't get solicited all that often anymore. And I ask a lot of people, and I'll be honest, the quality of guest for the most part is better on my show because when I'm in full control, guess what? I'll hit you up, and I don't hit up 50 people. Yeah, actually, I do hit up 50 people. That's a bad example, but I pick the 50. So those 50 people are hand selected. It is not me going down a list of the top 100 female wrestlers saying, love your match, would love to interview you. No, saying, hey, I saw you wrestle here, and I'm a big fan of A, B, C, and D, and I watch their matches. Same thing in comics. If I want to interview somebody, I have a list of people that I want to interview. There's plenty of people in comics who I have no desire to interview.
That's fair. You and I have similarities in that way. Like I said, it's been a little rocky with the other creators. I've always been about the fans, and so really I haven't changed much at all in 10 years. But there's a lot of creators that I've bumped heads with, or I have controversial opinions with.
I know a lot of them. A lot of them have been on my show, and I like a lot of them too, which is the problem.
But it doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter. We're all just people. We're now required to all get along because we are creators. In fact, it's the diversity of the opinions that we all have that makes the interesting books, because we're all going to talk about something different in our own way. I don't really hold any hostility against anyone. I really don't care. As far as creators go, they've kind of just shut them out of my mind. And artists, there's a list of artists and creators I would never personally work with. Would never touch. Whether they're talented or not, doesn't matter. I don't like them. But then there's also a lot of them that I do really like and I do get along with. Trey, He's a trade creator. He's awesome. So very awesome. One of my favorite dudes right now. We're coming out with another book called Trip Story. The end of this year, and he did the interiors for that. Really get along with him well. There's a few artists that I really get along with well, and that's fine, because even if I have 5 quality people, that's better to me than 50 mediocre people. Whatever. It's that quality of relationship that makes a difference. And the more selective you are, I think the better that quality is.
It's interesting because what started happening to me in my show, and I haven't really spoken about this, is that I had somebody like Brian Donovan on. Brian Donovan plays Rock Lee in Naruto. I had Steve Staley on. He plays Neji. I've had Robbie Rist, who plays Choji. I've had Colleen Oshaganase, who is Miles, Tails, and Inu and Konohamaru from Naruto. I've
Wow.
had Tsunade on, Debbie Mae West. I've had Brian Beacock on, who's been Digimon. He plays one of the Sound 4. And so what started happening, and Travis actually explained, saying, you're getting a certain quality of guest. Do you really want to put a no-name indie creator next to a top-tier talent like that type of voice actor, or do you want to put it next to professionals? And you have to be selective. You have to be. And it's the same thing where I agree with Travis Gibb to about 70%, where you also have to take some specs on people, because every once in a while, I'll throw a name out there, Nixon Noel, known as Tegan Knox in WWE. I so happened to interview her before she became a superstar. So
Nice.
every once in a while, you have to take a few specs and say, look, I think this person is really talented. I've had Billy Starks on 3 times, and Billy is in AEW. She's in Ring of Honor. Again, she was good when I interviewed her. She was 16 when she first started, and we did our first interview, and she is a superstar, and she's only going to get better. If she does not become a WWE Women's Champion, that is a waste of arguably one of the best wrestlers in the world.
That's awesome.
Hands down. The point is that if I didn't take that spec on her, that would not have been where it was. But again, that's what I think being selective means. Is that at a certain point, you have to understand the caliber of talent you have and who you want to put next to your talent. And also, if you have 2 good people there too, do you want to put somebody who is bad there? And I think it's such a complicated issue. And it's gatekeeping by definition.
It's gatekeeping, but there's a right and wrong way to do this.
I'm gonna, before you continue, I'm gonna say one thing. It's my money. So it's my money on this show. I pay for 90% of this show. The other 10% is by people who want to advertise on this show. But I get to gatekeep with my money. And I'm sorry to say it. It sounds mean. It's a controversial thing to say. I don't care, because it's factual. when it's your money, when you're not going out to bar night because you have to fund your show, and you have to skip 20 bar nights to make sure you have the capital to do this, yeah, you get to call the shots and you get to gatekeep. Sorry.
Okay, so here's the solution, though, that removes the controversy. And I love it when you say that's controversial, because I like I'm a fan of public discourse. I like it. I won't say I like drama. I don't like being the spotlight. I've been the spotlight of viral nasty troll, but I like public discourse. I like thinking logically and bringing stuff to the table. And a lot of people follow me because they like that. And it's encouraging. It makes other people speak up instead of just following in line like sheep, which is part of gatekeeping, following in line like sheep. That's kind of like the culture of it all. If one person has an individual thought, they get shut down if nobody's used to hearing individual thoughts. So I like the controversy you bring. That I've heard of the show. I don't know what you've spoken elsewhere, but so far so good.
You like my secondary show. You like my secondary show. We do it once a month, and we have an open discussion about an issue in comics. The first episode, we spoke about what's working in comics, what's not. And it wasn't mean. It was me, somebody who left Kickstarter, and two people were on Kickstarter. And everybody knew each other beforehand. And we had a wonderful discussion for about an hour, hour and a half about this, all different perspectives. I threw mine. Hey, this is working in my business. Tyrone Jackson had a different opinion, was working in his. And then Aaron Dowen and John Westhoff had two different opinions as well. And we agreed on certain things, disagreed on others. But we were just having a discussion about it. And I'm tempted, and we might be doing something tomorrow night, depending if people show up and people really want to join, about the whole bankruptcy with Frankie's Comics. And I think it's going to be very interesting talking about that. But continue, please.
I'll have to look into that one. Yeah, I like talking shop, is what I used to call it, because I used to be a retailer, so I talk shop. And this is how I think actually progress gets made, and solutions are had, and people actually learn to get along, is by dealing with opinions they don't want to hear, but understanding it's okay to agree to disagree. But the whole gatekeeping thing, so I think I went through that as an artist on the side of outside the gate, like no, I'm not allowed, the past few years. And the people that I don't get along with now, that, again, I don't really hold any hostility, but I would never work with, are people that didn't, how do I say this in a way that doesn't sound, I want it to sound right. You said you have to give people the opportunity, right? You not only have to give certain people the opportunity, just a percentage, to see what's out there and give people a chance, but you have to be nice. Okay, you have to like treat people with respect. And the people that I don't like are people that disrespected me without giving me a chance. Like, just straight off the bat, just, hi, my name is so-and-so, I'll work with you, Mindy. Boom! Straight up disrespecting is disrespectful. And you have to be careful who you go around just treating badly, because that person might eventually in 10 years, put a book on Kickstarter or do something with this industry. Maybe they'll stick around. So that beating people, I don't like it. That treating badly of someone you don't know, I don't approve of that. Give everyone a chance, be respectful. That's all.
I've been in this industry 10 years in podcasting, and the nicest person ever to me was Eddie Kingston, AEW Eddie Kingston. So I'm this new guy, 11 interviews in. I'm at LICon, sitting in a hotel room. Went on vacation with my mom. It was cool. LICon was a lot of fun. It's a sci-fi, comic, anime-esque con. It's a blast. It's like $30 to get in, right? The hotel's right there. It's freaking awesome. Great concept, super sci-fi, super fun. Anything goes. It was pretty cool. So what happens then with all of that is I book it and I have no idea what I'm doing. So instead of beating me down, Eddie Kingston carried the interview like 95%.
Oh, see, that's an example of a good person right there.
It's because he's been around long enough and he loves wrestling, and he probably realized really quickly in like 15 minutes in, this kid is brand new, and this kid though likes this shit, and who am I to destroy him? And at some point, me and Eddie are probably gonna do another interview. So I'm like, oh fuck, I remember who you are. And then like, oh shit. And it's gonna be a really cool moment. And I'm looking forward to it at some point. But the point is that's because there was no point in Eddie Kingston destroying me because I'm a brand new interviewer. Plenty of people have been like that. In my experience, I've dealt with maybe 10 people out of 600 interviews who are complete assholes.
Oh.
Both publicly and professionally to me in this space. And not assholes in the sense like Ray Jazz as an asshole. Ray Jazz is a douchebag. Ray Jazz is better than MJF as a douchebag.
Well, there's a difference. I want to be clear. There's a difference between being outspoken and being a jerk. I don't know who they are. Who you talking about? Who's a jerk?
No. Ray Jazz is a douchebag, and there's no other way how to describe Ray Jazz. Ray Jazz should be making, when he goes to AEW or WWE, if he ever gets there, should be making $5 million a year. Easy. He's that good. He's that good.
Dang. That's
He's
a
that
lot.
good.
Hmm.
Hands down. Everybody who I describe it to, and like I know people say, "Don't curse, Andrew. I don't want you to curse on the show. Please don't do it." And I call Ray Jazz. He's like, "Yep, yep." The point is that the point is that I agree because we never know where people are going to be.
You never know what potential that person has. Oh, that's an interesting story. Hate to bring up Hitler, but did you know that someone pointed a gun at him and chose not to shoot him when he was, I don't know how old, because I'm not a big Hitler fan, but he was younger and he was in a war at some point, and someone chose not to shoot him and spare his life. That's very ironic, isn't it? But the point is, you don't know what people are capable of. Now, I still probably wouldn't advocate going around doing things like that. No violence encouraged. So it's probably a bad example. But the point still stands. You have no idea who anybody is whenever you talk to them face to face. So just go around and be nice. There is a difference between being outspoken and still being like, my definition of disrespectful is getting screwed over much more in a business sense. I can handle criticism. There's even people that have trolled me in the past that have said really mean things about me that I'm friends with now. That I have no problems with. It's about the professionalism, though.
This is interesting though, because I feel, and I'm curious how you feel about this, is that this is the problem with obviously I've asked for money and I got funded on Kickstarter. A lot of grit. I have a feeling it pisses people off to this day. What people don't understand is that I hustled my ass off to get $870. It didn't just happen. I hustled every fucking day, and I was hustling to the end. My parents didn't contribute anything to it. My friends did. My friends contributed $35 out of 870. I don't think that's the majority. Full disclosure. I didn't need my parents to do it. They would have if it needed to be done. But I said, let's just wait. Let's see what happens. The point is that I know plenty of people whose parents contributed like $250 to their campaign. I know plenty.
Really
But my whole thing is that what I learned and what I figured out is that we want instant gratification. People want a podcast to do 10,000 views. People want it to not get them 10,000 backers, not get them $400 in backing, get them the views.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think people don't understand about interviewing in my space and even in comics per se. And I'm very curious what you think about this. Is it's a long game. It's not a short game where if you do an interview today and that interview is up for 10 years, over 10 years, that interview will now have done 2,500 plays. And now I understand that that's 250 plays on average per year. But remember, you did that interview 10 years ago. That is worth a lot of money because it's a very passive stream.
And books are the same way. Yeah, comic books are the same way. I'll be selling Boobs 1 for 10 years, right? And forever. So it is a long game. And being an artist, I knew this when I first got into it. And so it's really an interesting time in my life right now because it's approaching a 10-year mark of when I've been doing this. And Jim Lee, I noticed him on an interview, said it took him 10 years. A very prominent 10 years from the time he did his first X-Men cover, I think it was, to the time where he felt happy, comfortable, successful, like he had built something, like he was there to do something. And then that was just the beginning of his career. And I feel like I'm just starting to hit the beginning of my career now. And you're right about the instant gratification. Like right now, I've been kind of doing what I can with the Boobs 2, but it's not already at 28,000. It's only half of the numbers right now as Boobs 1. Am I concerned? No, not really, because usually number 2s do less than number 1s anyway, and I've had a lot of return backers, and we got a good thing going on, and I've still got 15 days, 17 days left, and I hustle every day. I'm not concerned. This is a long game for me, and it always has been. And 10,000 hours, they say it takes to master something. If you do 30 hours a week drawing, a 60, 120, 180, whatever, something like that, hours a week. I calculated this earlier. So it's about 10 years of drawing at 30 hours a week, or 30 hours a week till you hit 10,000 hours. And that's the like cap of what it takes to be a master. So yeah, long game.
So I mean, I've been podcasting since I think I was 21. So I think next year is technically 10 years. And again, it took me 50 episodes to start feeling comfortable on pre-recorded. It took me about 10 to feel comfortable live. But that was after doing pre-recorded interviews for 5 years. So it wasn't just me jumping into live raw. Prior to that, I had a 6-year career on YouTube doing videos, not making any money, but just commenting on videos and doing reviews on YouTube. So that was 6 years before interviewing. So I've been in media, not to nowhere near where a lot of other people have been, not nearly as successful, but in front of a camera for probably the better part of 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And my point, though, is that I feel as an interviewer, I am just getting good now. And then I've been selling comics since I was 18, 19. And now I am just figuring out. So I'm on year 12 of that. And in the last 6 months, I have just started figuring out how to make a lot of money doing this. And I mean a lot of money doing this. And then going further, because the 10-year thing, I've been an investor for around 10 years, a little less than 10 years, probably about 8, seriously. And again, I am now, I mean, it was good 5 years ago. It's actually really good 5 years ago. That's not the point. But I had good mentors. But now I've gotten a hell of a lot better. But experience plays a huge role, and time plays a huge role.
It does. And experience for me has been, besides improving in my skill, which I have done a lot and I've worked really hard to do that. The other like 50% of the experience comes with navigating the industry and dealing with the crap and realizing that crap doesn't really matter. What matters is you continuing on and pushing through it. I remember in that same interview with Jim Lee, he said he doesn't know if he would be here today, if he would have made it in comics, if they had YouTube and everything back then when he started, because of all the criticism and all the internet, social media drama stuff. He doesn't know if he would be able to handle it.
It's funny. It's funny, which I've gotten a lot of criticism, and I don't really listen. I don't listen listen to my audience all that much either. Nothing against my audience, guys. I love you guys. But again, it goes back to I've spotted talent that my audience would have surpassed, that my audience now loves.
Cool.
And the world loves. And Billy Starks, Tegan Knox, Chris Daniels, Leva Bates, Anthony Green, Josh Briggs, who's still in WWE. There's a few others. And all of a sudden, Shaza McKenzie's a good one. Effie. Those are some wrestlers. And then there's some people who are just really talented in comics. And that's where it goes down to, is that I sometimes have an idea of what talent looks like and who to back and who not to. And again, I don't pay massive attention to what everybody is saying, because most people are saying something have an agenda.
Yeah, and you'll notice it comes from competition 90% of the time, or the competition's own very loyal, personal, close following. And I think a lot of it has been a deliberate attempt to just shut you down. Just, they don't want you here. They don't want you to make books. And they purposely do it to distract you. It's to distract you from getting better.
Let's actually talk about that, because one of my problems, and I actually think it's going to be the downfall, and I don't get to talk about this, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for it too. I'm breaking codes and ethics here, guys. Is a lot of people have joined a tribe in comics. So they and not political, not Comicsgate, not Comicsgate, but more I'm with these guys over here and how they do it. I'm with this person and his crew over here. I'm over here with this gang over there. I'm on this side over here. We're hanging out over here. Me and I'm part of this studio. I've joined a studio with 6 other creators, and we all own our book. Or I'm going to create a mock thing, or I want to be on Team Scout. And while I'm doing indie comics, I'm still going to do Team Scout. And I'm rooting, and I have their backing. I'm with AP, Antarctic Press, and that backing. And I think, to some degree, that's very beneficial. It provides a lot of protection. It provides some type of support. It provides some type of, automatic built-in audience. But if you only hang out in one tribe, there's only so many people in that tribe that your growth is limited. Versus somebody like me, I don't belong to any one tribe. I'm interviewing everybody from every angle. So second comics gets too complicated, I'll jump to wrestlers. I'll jump to voice actors. I'll go to that tribe. I'll go to this tribe. And half these tribes don't want me anywhere near them. I'm like, yo, guys. And they're now asking for interviews for people, and people aren't biting. And I see it. And I see it. And I'm like, because you've been in your tribe so fucking long that somebody who's outside your tribe will say, hey, guys, I don't want to be part of your tribe, but I want to interview you. I know you got 14 projects every month. You want to do an interview? And now I'm like, they're like, they don't even bother to hit me up. So there you go.
It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. And I think it's been exaggerated.
I don't think it's a good thing at all. I think it's terrible.
Well, yeah, I think it's mostly negative. I think there's one small positive component of
you can disagree with me. You can completely disagree with me. That's if you think I'm completely wrong, you're more than welcome to.
I don't think you're completely wrong.
I mean, the reason why I think it's bad is that I understand safety in numbers. No, there's a great joke. I'm not going to say it, everybody. There's a great joke. We all know the joke. I don't need to say it. It's funny, but I can say it because of my religion. Other people cannot. Now we all know the joke. I would like to maintain my YouTube and my Facebook accounts very efficiently. But the reason why I say it's a bad thing is that I get the idea of having people backing you and having unison and having like-minded ideas. Why I think it's actually detrimental is because people get comfortable and they don't venture outside of their base to try to grow their base, or be like, yo, Andrew, you're an interviewer. Yeah. Do you want me to come on your show? Yeah, I'll happily have you on my show. Instead, they'd rather have an in-house interviewer. And I think meaning that I have my base as an interview is made up of every single body's components. So somebody who is in, we'll use the Zenoscope camp, right? Somebody who, there are people who are Zenoscope fans who like my show who might not know your book, and then they see you and they're like, oh, that's a cool book. Let me go check that out.
Mm-hmm.
First thing, if you stay in your camp, you might never ever come across the Zenoscope camp.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, no, you're right. There's really nothing to debate about that. What I was trying to say is just that, well, for the first time in 10 years, I finally am noticing a shift with artists that we've worked with that are like, we are supportive of Mindy Wheeler and Mike Wheeler. We are supportive of their book. It's been 10 years of everybody seemingly in every corner trying to prevent that from happening. And I finally see a shift. And here's what I think is going to happen, because 99% of that is a negative thing. That's the only positive part of that. Finally, I feel like we have a growing support within artists and creators. For fans have followed me for 10 years. They're awesome. I have no problems with fans. It's always the creators. But I think there's a shift because that has been such a prominent problem that I think goes all the way through Marvel and DC. And I think it's a human nature problem. I think it's a cultural problem. I think it's a social media problem. I think the algorithm heightens these tribes. and really has distorted some people's perception of the world at large. And I think it's fed into a lot of ego and a lot of like addictive habits, even.
So I hate to interrupt
Go,
because
go ahead.
you're onto something, but I want to add another point in there that I think might even be more important is that also a lot of people in these tribes have prospered because of it.
Mhm.
And if you told me, Andrew, you could join so and so and you can make 300,000 a year, I mean, it's a hard thing to walk away from and say, well, I have morality. It's really, really hard to do that.
That's kind of
And
what I. That's kind of what I did.
I mean, but my point is that is so it's an issue of do I go out on my own and do I run it the way I want to run it because I can and that's how I run my show. I could run my show any which way I want to. I'm not loyal to anybody. If a sponsor said, Andrew, we don't want you to do A, B, C, and D, I'd be like, well, you're gonna either have me or you're not. I walked away from a sponsor because they were trying to tell me how to run my show, and I was like, nope, just nope.
Mhm.
It would have. I mean, we're not talking about huge amounts of money, but it would have covered me for about 2 years. 2 years on the podcast, so about $700, which would have gone a long way and been very helpful. Take off 24 months of stress for bills regarding the show. Really helpful in the time that was needed. But I was also smart enough to say I want to run it my way. But I also think that a lot of these people in these tribes, for whatever reason, it's an easy extra $5,000 for their project, and I
Right.
think it sometimes goes down to that. And I think that's a real issue where I get that you're now having another $5,000 and now you can do your next book or your next 2 books if you manage your money a little bit well, or it gives you the ability to go to a con and then you could turn that $5,000 into more like 7,500.
Money is tempting. Money will always be tempting. It's again, it's a human nature kind of thing. I get some flack for that because I I associated with Comicsgate for a time years ago because I had been trolled by one group and I thought it was a very infancy of this other group, Comicsgate tribe group. That is not a group that says that a group, they're not a group. And I have people I talk to and friends with inside Comicsgate and outside of Comicsgate. I really don't care whether one is or not. But I did separate from the group while it was in its infancy because I saw a lot of trolling and it was not what I thought it was. I thought it was a community of positivity and it was not to my experience. And people will say that that's exactly what I would have done. It actually the same in the mainstream industry. Oh, if you would have palled with us, if you would have thought like us and done things like us and let us tell you what to do and just shut up and been a good, talking head on screen and been pretty and smiled, you would have had keys to the kingdom. You would have, oh, here's all this money you could have had. And I've just never been the kind of person to do that. And I think that people are just built that way. Either they're built that way or they're not. And it's the people who are not who are going to have a harder time, who are going to always be the people doing different things. And Mark Twain said, if you're on the side of the majority, then you probably are on the wrong side. So, the right side is never the easy side. But what's happened is everything's gotten stale. In indie comics, the people who have run the show for the past 20 years have run the show for the past 20 years. And there's new people. I see this now because I'm hiring other artists and I see what they tell me and I'm getting fresh opinions. People I didn't know before that I see that I work with now, and all the things they have to say and all their observations are so interesting, and they're tired of it. They're tired of people being that way.
Let me ask a question. Are you referring to Marvel DC Image running the show for the last 20 years? And now
yeah, and also certain other individuals.
Because I challenge that. And here's why I challenge. This is where the investor hat comes in. And I'm gonna ask you a question. What is the most popular form of media today? Do you know?
Social media?
I mean, social media is its own category. Beyond that, what is the most consumed form of entertainment today?
That's probably a toss-up between radio and television.
It's neither of those.
What is it?
It's video games. Video games are smoking everything. So when I look at Marvel and DC and I look at Dark Horse and Image, I mean, I look at this idea that those companies have clearly gone the media route with HBO Max, going to Hollywood, doing the billion-dollar films, have done the video games. I mean, for DC to do a Batman video game, beyond profitable for them.
Oh yeah.
Beyond. They do a Superman, they do a mobile game for your iPhone, and they release one every 6 weeks. Marvel does the same thing. So my whole point is that I don't know if that maybe they're ahead of all of us.
Probably. I probably think so. I think that, well, I think they fail in a lot of areas, but I think that that's kind of like a intentional, they don't care failing, like whatever. They're focusing on other things.
I view this so differently than everybody else. I actually think the Marvel DC model is the best model on the planet in comics.
That's going to get you some flack.
Get me out on this. And when you hear me out, you might say, this is interesting. They release 50 titles. Let's say that for them to do, or let's say they release 30 titles a month, right? Not a lot in reality. Let's say that 30 titles runs them $100,000 and then another 30 grand to print all of it. So $130,000, right? To you and me, $130,000 is a lot of money. To a company that, let's say DC Comics, obviously they have IPs that are worth billions of dollars. So let's say in a given year, to do all of DC Comics, just the floppies is 1.5 million, give or take. Let's be generous. They now have produced for 12 months times 30, 360 comics, right? That is 360 ideas that they have tested in a marketplace to see what works for a lunchbox, a shirt, a television show, a movie, a video game, a direct-to-TV thing, an original graphic novel, a mobile game, or an NFT, or whatever else they want to put it on. They just spent $1.5 million that was funded at least 80% by us, the consumers, on the recoup to test an idea.
That's very clever. That's very business savvy. I never.
And people say, Andrew, why'd you buy AT&T that owns Time Warner, which owns DC? Why'd you buy Disney? And yet none of us in India are trying to copy this. I have no idea why. I mean, if you do a comic, you're not doing a comic, you're doing an IP.
Right.
We should be thinking about this. Everybody in indie comics has this wrong. Boobs is not a comic. That is its representation right now.
Right.
You could do Boobs as a novel, you could do it as a TV show, you could do it as a radio drama, and that's the problem that everybody on Kickstarter in the comic realm has right now, is that you don't have a comic. You have an IP that is being presented as a comic versus what is the value. So if I said to you, Mindy, would you sell me Boobs the comic and the rights to the comics for $100,000? Not your IP, right? Because the IP and your comic are not the same.
Right. I don't know if I would sell it to you. $100,000.
No, I'm saying for the rights for the comics. I'm not saying for the rights for your IP. So you could do the drama, you still have the television, you still have the films, you have whatever else is not cut out in the comics. That doesn't mean I own Boobs outright. I just own the rights to do the comic. I don't have the rights to change your IP.
But, there's a couple of interesting points about the industry on this. There are some comic book publishers I found out about a few years ago that model their whole business in this exact way. Their whole purpose is only to pick up something to go to television. First Something was the name of it, and then there's a couple others. There's that one I know of, and then Image also, I think, follows it much the same way. So they get these people like producers or whatever that look at all the titles, and they have this big Image Expo where I've been to one as a retailer, and you go and they preview all the titles and they give presentations by the creators on each of the upcoming books and they sell. And then whatever does seem to really hit, they take it. The producers who are watching all the image stuff come in and say, hey, we'd like to do a television show. So that's already in existence. Yeah, very much so. In more of the indie publishers, I would say at Marvel and DC already have all the contacts to it. But in this case, it's creators with their creator-owned properties pitching to people. But that's where the profit is. And I've heard, I don't remember who said it, but I've heard people say, oh yeah, the only reason I'm doing a comic is because I have a friend who's a producer and they're going to turn it into a TV show, basically. So
I know people who are so excited when they get an option.
Option, yes.
And my question is that, are you excited because your thing's going to be made into something, or are you excited that you got a $5,000 check? Which is it? And that you have the potential to have the option renewed by the same people, or which will be another $5,000 or $5,500 check. Or are you excited that then the option be shopped around and then it may expire? And if you have 10 options, and this is what Scott Snyder deals with, is I think Scott right now has 6 or 7 options. And every time it gets renewed, they don't want to release it, Scott Snyder. And I don't know if Scott really is everything in that anything he wrote or done or option is ever going to be turned into a movie, television show, an animated flick, or anything in Hollywood. But it's a lot of money every single 2, 3, 4 years. Where all of a sudden, if you have 7 options that generate you on an average base cost every 2.5 years, $12,000 a piece, it's a lot of money while you're doing other things. Because then if you properly invest that money because there will be a point where those options become irrelevant. Whether that's 40 years from now, who knows? But there will be a point where they will expire. Nobody will want them. And it will be done and dead in the water if it doesn't get made into something. If it gets made into something, that's even more money. But I think Scott has said it in public interviews that those options are his future money.
Oh.
Because he's probably investing it smartly. And that's the type of thing that will pay your house down. That's the type of thing that will fund your retirement. That's the type of thing that you put into a rainy day fund. And so that's when I hear people with options, that's my response to saying, are you excited because you got a nice big check and that the check could be renewed? Or are you excited because you want it to be made? Because if you want it to be made, then you should forego the check, take a 0 option, but have a 90% gate on it.
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of wrestlers that are smart with their money that way. And what is it? JB, he does all the financing. He manages the finances for like John Cena and a bunch of other. I can't think of his name? He wears a cowboy hat. But I think it was John Cena's case, like an action figure or something like that. They say, do you want the down payment or do you want the royalties? And although it's not the upfront check, the royalties will make way more money. Same concept.
With Steven Crowder spoke about this, where he does comedy, and what he does is that he says, I will take a lower guarantee for a bigger percentage of the gate. And this whole Daily Wire thing, I think it's really important. And I did speak with somebody about this, and I don't know if the point was made on people of explaining what we can all learn from Steven Crowder. Whether you like Steven Crowder or you don't, what he was explaining about the Daily Wire position was beyond crucial and beyond helpful for every comic creator and every creative, technically, is that there are points where you want to have a guarantee. If you are brand new and starting out, maybe you want a guarantee of making $50,000. So, for instance, if I was going to the Daily Wire, I would want a guarantee because I'm still new and I'm still building my name. Then after 3 or 4 years, I would then want a bigger percentage of the gate. I would want to be on gate level. John Cena, when he was the prototype, to bring us back to wrestling, probably in his first 3 years, probably wanted a pretty big guarantee. 2005 going into 2006, he wanted 40% of the gate. of what he brought in. He wanted a 6% royalty, no money up front. Or he wanted a 1.5% royalty on shirts versus being paid $5,000 and not ever having to worry and getting a 0.05% royalty.
I did a published piece for a comic book publisher once, and I wanted royalties. And I think it wasn't a very good interaction in the end. They didn't, I feel, handle it very professionally. The contract didn't happen till like way after it happened, if there was even a contract. And then the royalties was like really just abnormal, they said, for me to ask for. And said that they thought I was taking advantage of them and that I was being a basically prissy artist by asking of these certain things. And
what you said is, you said, absolutely, that's what I am, but my royalty offer still stands. I've done that. I've done that in negotiations. I said, sure, I might be a prick, but that's the offer.
They said no other artist has ever asked us for this. They're happy with the payment they get, and this is going out of our way, and blah blah blah. And because I know the artists are happy for that check, right? That paycheck, but I just so happened to be wanting royalties and said I didn't need the check. I still got paid for the thing that I did, but I wanted royalties. That's how I always wanted it. And the thing is, I was very upfront about that when I started communication with them, and then they didn't like get it in writing, and they like didn't send me the contract until after it happened. And then when I said, hey, the part of the contract isn't there, that's when they started giving me trouble. And it was like, well, nobody else does that. You're just being difficult, Mindy. And
it's tricky in which that, I mean, with my job, technically I should have negotiated better. Given that I'm upon a year and I'm about to have a lot more responsibilities, and I'm finally getting to take the car out into fourth gear. A lot of fun. It's a lot of fun when you get to drive a really expensive sports car. It goes really fast in fourth gear, in case you didn't know, everybody. But that's my company's, that I'm getting to do something, and I should be making at least 25% more than what I'm making in the market with my responsibilities and what I'm doing. And technically, when you're hiring vendors for a decent amount of money and you're not being paid anywhere near what you're hiring out for, you realize really quickly, oh shit, I should be paid a lot more. But there's gonna be a point where a company is gonna recruit and want me. It's gonna be a Fortune 500 company, and they're gonna be offering me real money. And I'm gonna go to this company and be like, look, I got a real offer from them, and what can you do if you want to retain me? And my company may or may not want to retain me, and that'll be that. So I will get paid what the market dictates, but I came in asking 25% less when they offered me this job a year ago. So they offered me a certain amount, and then they offered me $12,000 more than what I was asking for. So it was hard for me to negotiate when they were already offering me a significant amount more than what I was willing to take to start.
Yeah, right.
So I don't think I shot myself in the foot, but I could have countered it.
Yeah.
I was just happy to have a job.
Sometimes that's how it is, and it just depends on what day they catch you. You know, I think that me asking for royalties made it so they never did anything with that artwork again, which is fine, because after that interaction, I don't really care. I'm not working with them again.
That's another thing too, is that, I mean, this is the whole thing with WWE, right? Is that Jesse Ventura doesn't have his stuff on WWE Network because he negotiated a royalty deal while everybody else didn't. Maybe one or two other people did as well, but he has a royalty deal. And so whenever he's on television and whenever he's on the WWE Network, they have to write him a check. And Vince is not happy about it. So they don't really put his stuff up there if they can avoid it. And because royalties are really, really, really expensive.
Yeah, I think that I kind of shot myself in the foot, I guess. But that's what I wanted. I was upfront about it. And then they said, "Well, you didn't make as much money as we thought you were gonna. You were disappointing," they told me. I was like, "Well, fine."
I'll be honest though. I mean, it's complicated because if I go in and hire you for a Kickstarter, I really can afford to pay you royalties.
Oh, well, they were a big company, so I
But
right.
I'm going to challenge you. Even DC and Marvel really can afford sometimes to pay royalties on
Mm,
certain things, and it's just that it's a very tricky thing where and you know what is this is where it goes down to is that it's also the idea that look, I'll do the piece for free, but I want a royalty.
yeah.
So in certain ways, it's a matter of your gate versus that. Or if you say, look, I'll do it for my base rate of $25 when I usually charge 500, but I know we're going to sell 300,000 copies and I want 10 cents a book. It's just a way to finance it. And then Marvel and DC or another major company might say, look, we have the money to pay you, and we would rather pay you $600 a page just to buy you outright. And look, I mean, I'm to some degree, I'm similar where I get both sides. I love royalties as an investor. I love royalties. I love that word because I like finding a way how to get my money back. But I don't mind making less money to have a royalty.
That makes sense. I think, yeah, the way that I just, it comes down to that respect thing. If somebody like that publishing company, if they would have handled it and said, you know what, we just really can't do that, we can't afford it, I would have been like, okay, I would have no problem. But it's the insults that started coming my way, the personal insults
It,
to
it,
instead.
this raises a question, though. Sorry to interrupt because I think you're touching on something. I was speaking. Do you know who Dustin Burnell is?
Ethereal.
Yeah, Ethereal.
Hmm.
I love Dustin. Dustin's great.
Yeah, Dustin is great.
Every time I have a conversation, like I'll tell a story, and I don't think he's gonna mind me telling it. He has a retail package of 50 books for like $400. It's not a bad price. That wasn't my problem with his retail package. It's
Mm.
50 books in my store. My eBay store is too many books. So I said, hey, could we do 15? He's like, yeah, we could do 15 books. That's not an issue. Same price. So the point is that Dustin is very approachable in that regard. Because sometimes somebody might find that insulting.
Mm.
I was speaking to somebody, to Kyle last night about Scout. You need 250 copies to print a variant with Scout. Now, 250 copies with Scout is going to run you $1,500. That's not the problem for me. That's really not the issue. The price isn't the problem, it's the volume. 250 copies of a book is a long box. I
Yeah.
don't want to store a long box of the same book by Scout. It is too much of one book in one basket. There's not enough diversification in anyone's collection. A comic shop can't run a Scout book. Most of them can't run.
Mm.
And so, but my point is that what Dustin was saying is that he was saying there's a lot of people doing comics, there's very few professionals.
Oh, 1,000% agree with that. And that's the thing. And you can even have abrasive opinions and be controversial, but if you're approachable and you make sense, that is what separates you from everyone else on a professional level. And it's the not making sense part. And a lot of accusations get thrown around all the time. Oh, he's a scammer. This person's a scammer. This person's that. From people who don't understand. And at the same time, the people who are selling comics or publishing comics, like I just said, it was the personal insults from that publishing company that makes me not want to work with them again. If they could have just said, "Oh, we can't afford it," or but it was the attitude. It was the attitude and the dishonesty that will separate you from everybody else. So I personally find Mike and myself are very approachable, and that goes a long way because part of that element is listening to the market and listening to the people who actually want to support you. And if you don't do that, then they're going to end up eventually not supporting you. So
It's
that's just business.
interesting. I think I just have a reputation that I'm not approachable. I really think, and we said I used to be solicited all the time.
Hmm.
And now I rarely get bugged for an interview. And I put up a statement a little while ago. I said, you can always ask. You can always ask.
It might be, oh, that could, people get shy. Approachable maybe isn't the right word.
I'm very
Working,
approachable.
negotiable, needing to work with somebody is what I meant. Like, say you were working with someone on a project and they're like, "Hey, I need this. Something came up," and the flexibility is the
I
term I'm looking
think I think what it is, at least for me and how I view it, is that you can always ask for
for.
an
Right.
interview is the point of my thing. And I think what's happened is that I ran a Kickstarter, and for whatever reason, I think it changed the way people view me. And it's fine. It's fine. And also, I've become more selective. And just because you ask doesn't mean that I'm going to agree to it. Just because somebody asks. I mean, I know that at least 10 people are going to be asking me in the next 2 months for interviews. Out of those 10, I'll take about 6 or 7. There's going to be 3 of them. I'm just going to be like, I get it. I like you as a person, but I'm booked. It's like 8 to 10 spots and I'm booked.
Mm.
Like, you're number 11. I'm sorry.
They
And
have
it's going to be what it's going to be. Or I'll say, look, I have a spot on Saturday at 4 in the afternoon. Do you want it? And that's the other thing that's also going to start happening is that once my prime spots are filled up, I don't want to say there's ever a shitty spot, but there's a position where there's not desirable spots. A Friday night at 9 o'clock is not a desirable spot for an interview. It's not. It's not. I'm sorry to say. It's fun, but Friday night is prime time, and Friday night is, for me at the very least, I kind of want to chill out and have a beer and watch Netflix. Or Friday night, if you're a young couple, is you and your wife's time or your girlfriend's time. Let's just say that. Or Friday night is bar night.
Yeah, a lot of people are out and about, getting drunk at bars and stuff. Friday night
So
party night.
or you finally put your 2-year-old down and you're like, honey, what a fucking week. I know. What a week. Work was easy. Our kid almost killed us. And then you and her are legitimately just watching like the Friday night show. You don't want to talk to each other, and your kid's asleep, and you're thrilled. See, you're laughing because it's true. See, everybody's watching this who's a parent understands exactly what I just said.
I know. I'm getting tired. I love my kids, but I've noticed the past year or two, I've just like slowed down as a mom mentally. I was like mentally slower, just like, yeah, she's gonna do that. It's okay.
But
Let her have the toy.
I just see what's going to happen to you as a parent is you're going to be really tough on your first one. Your second one, you're going to be a little less tough. And then by the third one, you're like, just jump off the fucking bridge. I don't give a shit today. Just go for it. It's all you. It's all you. Have a good time. Yeah, no worries. You go do you.
That's that's pretty much, yeah, that's very accurate. I know. And every kid is drastically different. When you have kids, you think the first one, you're like, okay, I got this, I figured it out. Then the second one comes along, totally different. You have to adjust everything. And then the third one comes along, totally different than the other two.
Did you see Ben Shapiro was just with on the iced coffee hour, and he has 4 kids. And what he was saying is that it's rarely that all 4 of them are good and just playing with each other and peaceful. There's a 1 in 16th chance that's going to happen. But there's also a 1 in 16 chance that they're all going to be bad at the same time. So now there's a good chance that one of them is going to be bad and the other 3 are going to be okay, or 2 of them are going to be bad and the other 2 are going to be okay. Great. But what you're saying is that I also have to look at it like it was funny because I'm not a parent yet, but I just started laughing because I was like, he's got a really good point where like 1 out of 16 times you have 4 kids, they're all going to be bad, but there's 1 out of 16 times where they're all going to be good. But if you have 2 kids, it's 1 out of 4 both kids are going to be bad, and 1 out of 4 both kids are going to be good, and then there is a 50-50 shot. When you have two children, it's going to be one's good, one's bad. And if you have three, obviously it's, you know, 1/8 and 1/8. So it's fascinating.
I think, and that's where your skill as a parent comes in. It is a skill. Parenting is 100% a skill. You're always getting better at it. You're always learning and you're always adjusting. And I've been a parent for 14 years now. I have 3 kids of all different ages. I've homeschooled for 8 years. And the skill comes in being able to manipulate the situation enough to get them on the right track more often than not, because you know the bad habits of one will influence the bad habits of another. So you have to curtail them and teach them to choose good habits more often, and then that will influence good habits in the rest.
I'm gonna run my children like a hedge fund. They're gonna be just they're gonna be just like they're gonna be like so messed up until they're 18 and like, I fucking get it. It's gonna just be like that's what you're like. I get it. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing. Like, you're gonna be like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And then they're gonna be like 18 and they're like, poof. And they're just gonna take off like rockets. They're just gonna take off like rockets. They're like, I got college paid for Dad. I got this covered. You wanted that Ferrari? That's on me. And what do you mean? I was buying him the Ferrari. No, I'm gonna buy him first. Oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be amazing. You're like, buy like, like, I bought this one that goes fast. No, I bought this one that goes faster. And then like, if I have a third kid, the third kid's be like, why'd you guys buy the Ferrari? I'm buying Dad a Lambo. It's gonna be great.
That'd be nice. I wish I had a Ferrari Lambo, but that's okay.
Oh no! My kids are gonna buy it, and they're all gonna compete because they're just gonna be like taken off by like rockets. It's gonna be amazing.
Sometimes competitiveness is good to instill too. It's so skilled, and no one is gonna know your children better than you. So especially because they take on traits of you. So it's very important for all parents out there, I think, too. Really, that parent-child relationship is the most important relationship. You know, not teacher parent, not sending them off to school, doing this and that. Like, I think most all behaviors can also be corrected with a healthy parent-child relationship. It takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of skill, but honestly, it's the most rewarding thing too.
I think a good 80%. I think 80% can be. I think there are normalities. I think there are things that are beyond. I think there are things that are outside influences. That definitely can send somebody down the wrong path. And to fix those, because I'm dealing with something in my family like that, extended family, where there's a pretty significant outside normality that has caused a shift.
That can happen. Yeah.
It's a pretty big one, and I don't want to talk about it too publicly. This is not my place to talk about it, but I agree with you, 80 to 90%.
Average. The average numbers.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Average numbers, the parent should have the most control because they are the most qualified.
And maybe people should run their Kickstarters like that. No, seriously, if everybody ran their Kickstarters as if they were raising their children, this would be such a healthier environment.
Well, you don't neglect your child for 3 years.
That is true.
You don't give your child broken toys.
This is interesting, right? Because I don't know if you saw my last not the one about Frankie's comics, but about the one I did before that. Did you see that thing that I put up on Facebook?
I've been really exhausted and busy. I haven't done much.
Most people, I think, appreciated it because I think it's not smart at all. It's actually obvious. What I said is, remember, a successful Kickstarter is not one that funds, but one that fulfills.
Oh, no, I did see that. Yeah, I saw that and I liked it. Yeah, and I agree. I think
it's a big problem where funding a Kickstarter isn't the end. It's just the beginning.
It's a long game.
I don't care if your Kickstarter funds. I care if your Kickstarter fulfills when I back it. If I back a book and you take 3 months to fill, but you told me it took 3 months to fill, that's fine. It took me 6 months to fill, that's great. Your Kickstarter isn't done until the last person has your book appropriately.
Amen.
and, and so that's the problem here is that so like I did 120,000. I'm like, did you fulfill 120,000? This is what needs to happen in this community is that people need to start calling out creators this way. And then maybe I have to be the guy saying, I'm glad you did 120,000, Pat Chan. Did you fulfill it yet? So until you fulfill it, this campaign is not successful.
Oh, interesting.
And,
I didn't know I don't know. I just wrote a message to Pat Shan today telling him he did a good job with Kickstarter. I haven't talked to him in many years,
he
but
does he does a great job and he always fulfills. But I think we need to start changing the mentality. We need to start changing the words in which that Destiny in New York, volumes 1 through 6, is going to be fulfilled probably starting October, November. I think they're on track. Maybe even sooner. Maybe the end of this month. I don't know. But that campaign isn't successful yet. I'm sorry to say that campaign is not successful.
I
And
agree that with that.
it starts here. That campaign is not successful until every backer is satisfied with their purchase, not the book, but with getting their order and their pledge.
I fully support this. And again, it comes down to honest marketing too, because Kickstarter was originally intended to kickstart a project, then it goes to the production. It could take 2 years, but that's how it started. But if you're honest about it and say, especially in the realm of like technology, hey, we got the funding for this prototype. Now we got to do it. Now we got to manufacture. It's going to take 8-9 months. If you're honest about it, then people get what they signed up for. But if you tell everybody, oh, I'm doing this, and then you don't do it, and that's the problem. And people have gotten tired of it. And it's become, I think, the new norm to have it done when you launch.
I have friends and Sirens, which was Santine Phoenix and Jameson Stone. And I like Santine. I hung out with Santine. I've always had a good experience, and I thoroughly enjoy Santine. Every time I shoot her a message, she always responds back to me. She's been on my show like 3 or 4 times. But they did 300,000 on a D&D book on Kickstarter. They fucking fucked the book up, for lack of a better word, where it was Santine's project. She wasn't ready to be CEO, and she learned how to be a CEO on the job, essentially, by screwing it up. They were supposed to have the book done by the end of this year, early next year, got pushed back to like beta testing is now happening in December, which means that you're even further out. But then they fired a bunch of writers. Then they were more expensive with writers. Then there was issues with Jameson's company. And then now we're looking at 2025, 2026, maybe middle of 2025. That's a big difference of saying I'm going to be printing and sending and getting your books to me in March of 2024. Big difference.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Well, and I think something that we kind of touched on earlier, especially with this, the new artists, we're talking about gatekeeping and stuff, and the tribes. I think the tribes of today, they're still around. Of what I remember 10 years ago, they're the same tribes in indie comics. But I think that in the next 10 years, in 10 years from now, there will be totally different tribes. There will be totally different people. And I don't even know if they like the whole tribal thing. But, things will change over time. I forgot what I was going with that. But the Kickstarter.
I disagree.
You think so?
I think you're gonna have tribes. I think you're gonna have breaking up of tribes that form new tribes. I think right now you have company-centric tribes, and I think you're gonna have spin-offs of those. I think you're gonna have divisions, and then I think you're gonna have nomads like me.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think what's gonna happen is that I think in the next 6 months we're gonna be in for a rough spot in the economy. I am very pessimistic. I see the writing on the wall. I see market manipulation has been massively across every board. Right now, I can't tell you what a fair value of a stock is because it has been so manipulated. And it used to be that there were good value stocks. Now is the stock undervalued or overvalued? And everything is in a stock market. So is Apple trading below or under what it should be trading for, what the stock market goes under right now. And it's also been so manipulated. And I mean, I could drop a word here. It's a China word. It's not a fun word. Evergrande. Evergrande has done a lot of damage, and there's a lot of other stuff going on. And Max Kaiser won't say it, but I will. And so I think when that happens, that's going to be the cracking of tribes, because when there's less money in this and people have to choose between saying bread, keeping my lights on, or comics, they're going to pick, they might not even pick bread. They might pick keeping the heat on, and they might keep, maybe getting milk. And when we hit a recession, that's what's coming. And so I think those tribes are going to break during those points. And I think somebody like me is going to become way more influential, because now everybody's going to need as much media as humanly possible for free. And the question becomes, is that great? I'm all for free media. I've learned that lesson, but I'm also going to be selective.
Interesting times are for sure to come. I think we all expect that, especially next year. I've been thinking that of next year for several years now, that next year is going to be a weird year, I think.
I think it's a buying opportunity. I also think it's an opportunity that if you have $100,000 and you're an indie creator, buying somebody's book, buying rights to people's books, optioning people's books, buying a piece of it, not the whole thing, but buying a 10% equity stake. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I really do. I think it's coming. I mean, I might be a buyer for that. I might say, look, you need $5,000 for your book. I'll write you a check for 10,000, but I want 10% of your book's equity, of the whole shebang. And I have a feeling that people are going to need it. They're going to need the sponsorship, and that they're going to need 10K, and they'll happily give 10 to 20% of their books away. I think we're going to see a lot more of that coming. I do.
You're probably right. I bet you're right. There's been all kinds of market manipulation in trucking. That's the industry that I was in for a while before this, and there's massive manipulation there, and that was disappointing, upsetting. And so the whole supply chain issue, but at the same time, they're massively manipulating it. So yeah, there's a lot of weird things at play.
I think we are in for a very, very, very rough road in comics, and I'm anticipating 2024 to be a half year for me in my eBay business right now. So I will end the year around 70 to 80 in sales. I will be beyond lucky if I get 50 in 2024 with what I'm expecting. I'm also understanding 2027, there's a good chance I'll do 150,000.
Yeah, because it goes in ebbs and flows. So we're gonna go back up. Going back
What I think is going to happen is that I think that the reason why I say that is a book that I would sell for 60 in 2024, I'm going to sell for 100 in 2027, because people are going to want it and the demand is going to be there. It's already started. I already know people are hoarding books. I have people who have bought 8 or 9 of the same baseball card from me, and I've seen it. I had somebody today buy 2 of the same books at a little bit of an overvalued price, to be honest. Hopefully the person's not watching. If they are, I'm sorry. But they paid $5 more per book than they really should. They could have negotiated me down, but I think they understand saying it's a limited edition, and I don't want to fuck around.
That's interesting. Wait, hey, did you know that I just caught this the other day? I was going on Kickstarter, doing my research, as you recommend. I was doing a healthy dose of it, and I was looking back in time at certain accounts of the history of certain accounts and people and books and series. And during 2020, it seemed like a very good year, a very lucrative year on Kickstarter. And then books since then, a lot of them went down. And you think, oh, well, that makes sense. They got a big boost in 2020. If it wasn't 2020, maybe they wouldn't have done those numbers. So that was interesting, a little discovery that I made.
Yeah, so people say a rising tide raises all boats. I think that's not true. I think a rising tide raises boats of a kind. I think a rising tide raises boats in the same suit. I think because if Brandon Sanderson did 50 million with his novels, that sure indirectly impacted comics because well, you got more people on the platform. Naturally, some people like comics. Say, "Oh, I'm already on the platform. Let me try something." Right. So
Mm-hmm.
in my Kickstarter, I brought people to the platform. I brought my two best friends to the platform. Whether they ever back a campaign or not, they're at least on the platform. The potential's there, right? So if you're a fan of Brandon Sanderson, he did 50 million and he brought 10,000 new users to the platform, even if we have 0.05%, it's still a large number of people. It's like 100 people now who might have then bought a comic. So
Mm-hmm.
that's good overall, but it's not influential. And so everybody was saying that they're all wrong.
Oh.
Um, they're all wrong. When Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett did Good Omens, those people aren't comic people first and foremost. Their media rankings are not the same. Yes, there's crossover, but the crossover isn't over 50%. So it's not influential. So the
Mm.
likelihood of somebody, same thing with Boom Power Rangers, right? I mean, I'm going to say something and you might be offended by it, and I'm sorry, but somebody backing Power Rangers is not going to be saying, "Oh, Boobs is on there too" by Mindy Wheeler, right? They might see it and they might impulse buy, say, "Oh, this book looks awesome. What the hell is this book?" But they're not saying, "I'm staying on the platform for this,"
Right.
right?
Right.
They'll
Yeah, I
see it
agree.
and they'll
There's
buy it. It's more of an impulse buy. And that's what happens with all of these people. And when people say, "Oh, all these people have more capital," what happened in 2020 was that there were more projects and there were also more high end projects
hmm.
to some degree that brought in people outside of the traditional indie comic realm.
Oh, I see. I see. So it brought a boost to the other people. That makes
When
sense.
when Boom did Power Rangers, when they did Keanu Reeves' book Berserk, when Brandon Sanderson did his thing, when all these board games do Avatar: Last Airbender, the board game that costs $200, when WWE does a Mattel set, right? There's the WCW crowdfunding Mattel set on Kickstarter. It brings people in who are fans of those products from cultivated audiences, and then some of those people stick around.
I see.
Now, if
Yeah.
you do that with 100 projects, and each of those 100 projects brings 150 people that have other interests that come to comics, after 100 projects, you have a decent size of people in there, but you don't have 100 of those projects every year.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting.
and so what I think has happened is that 2020, a lot of money came in. I mean, I got some money. Obviously, I got money from Biden. I got money from Trump. I got money from Washington, D.C. Because if you were unemployed in D.C., they gave you another $1,200. On, on top of that, and I was
Hmm.
more or less a displaced worker. I was in between jobs. And so I was looking for another job. And if you made less than a certain amount of money, so if you made less than like 60K in DC, you got that $1,200 too. So because there's plenty of people in DC who make no money. Average congressional staffer makes 38,000.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, their salaries are
An
pretty
average
low.
congressional staffer after 5 years leaving the Hill makes like 140.
Mm.
So you work for dog shit to make a lot more money when you're 35. If you started out when you're 27, work in a congressional office, make your way up to an LA or an LD, stay around in an LD position for 4 years, and then go to a top firm outside, you'll make like 180 really quickly.
Mm.
Not the point though. But
Huh.
health of Kickstarter. Back to the health of Kickstarter. Everybody should just work for the government. Just run for a Senate seat. You'll be much happier. Um,
Oh no, I'm okay.
well, I can't wait to run for a Senate seat. I'm gonna turn Connecticut red, white, and blue.
Oh man, I talked to someone the other day who said he was elected for two office positions. One was the city, and I don't remember the exact details of which position this was at, but he went there and there was no office. It didn't exist. He worked nowhere. No, there was nobody doing anything in that position. That's what I always think is going to happen when I hear people running for these positions. I think, I bet you they're going to go and there's nobody doing anything. And sometimes that is the case.
I can't wait to win a Senate seat. I technically can run.
You really are?
I can't wait. I'm thinking about it. I want to get a matching hoodie like John Fetterman. He'll be black. I could be white, and then we can have the black team versus the white team in basketball. It'll be funny. It'll be hilarious.
That sounds like something out of Boobs. Watch out. People might not laugh, but I laugh.
Right. It'll be an East Division rivalry, Connecticut versus Pennsylvania. It'll be all right. I mean, we could pick teams. It'll be great. You could pick like we could have like I could have. I mean, I don't know how good Ted Cruz is in basketball, but I'm sure I'll pick Marco Rubio first because he looks like he can actually play well. And then he's got the hot weather position in Florida, so he could probably play in all types of weather. So that's probably good. And I don't know. It could be really interesting. It could be really, really, really interesting. This Senate basketball team.
That is very interesting. Well, I should probably go just so you know. It's getting late. We're almost at 2 hours.
Yeah, this happens. I'm sure we covered a lot of stuff. But I do want to give you a chance to actually promote it, and I should be an adult and show some covers. So that's one cover. This is another from David Brought, who I think
passed away.
Yes,
he passed away from colon cancer in I don't know the year. It was about 3 years ago. And we waited to publish it, and so this is his last published piece. And he was really fun to work with on this. We were laughing the whole time we made this. So
did he also have complications from COVID as well?
I don't know. I know that he had been battling cancer. I don't know about the COVID.
I think he had some issues, like he had COVID and like messed up his eyesight for a little bit, and some other stuff. And so I don't think I could be mistaken, but I think the COVID was like all led to more of it.
Oh,
gosh. He had some serious health issues going all the way, I guess, prior to his death due to COVID and some other things that were going on.
That could be. He kind of like went MIA, and so did we. We stopped doing it, so, and we left, and we got busy doing other things, and we waited to publish it. So it was a long time that I talked to him, and so it could be. I don't know, but I was really sad when I found that out.
I don't want to misspeak, but that's what I know. Fascinating. I have one of his last covers from somebody that he worked on with Kickstarter. It's a great cover. It's a great cover.
He was a fun guy. People who usually laugh, we usually get along with pretty good. Have a good sense of humor, and he did.
And so that's that, and then obviously this is another cover right there.
Mike Chrome, he does a lot of Zenoscope work. I think is he doing Dynamite? I think he might be doing some Dynamite stuff. He's very talented. He's in Australia, so that's his work right there.
So that's out there, and then we have this one right here, which is obviously Spider-Man 300.
I love how it says boobs in the background. Just boobs, 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 boobs. That's my favorite part of this. And the legs, I did this one. And hey, on improving my artwork, I have gotten so much faster. I did that cover. I colored it or drew it and colored it in a day. And I did the same thing with the Labor Day print, which is like, this is really cool. I'm not trying to brag, but it's really cool for me, as that's a huge milestone, because 10 years ago, that would have taken me 30, 40, 50 hours it took me to do a piece. Like my angel piece, it took me like 50 hours. So to get something done in a day is really crazy. It means I've come a long way.
We got some RB White.
That one's a limited to, I think it's 25, the crystal cracked ice foil.
A prism foil. And then we got the black stuff right
Limited to 10. That's a metal cover. Those two.
there. We got those two right there, and then there's a few others that are in this, but they're not important. And then technically, I could show your favorite cover of all time.
Oh, well, some of them you might be in trouble for. The Glam Shot one is the one that I did for it. The last book I did all of the covers, and this book we hired some out, but sometimes Facebook doesn't like boobs. So,
Yeah. eBay doesn't like it sometimes either.
hmm.
Where there's a reason why I really refrain from selling naughty books.
Hmm.
Um, they give you a warning. They give you a second warning. Then if you don't touch it for 3 months, they give you sort of a third warning. And then after that, they suspend your account for 3 days. Then the second time there's a violation, it's 7 days. And then it's 7 days again for a while, 4, 5, 6 times. And then after that, it's like 2 weeks. And then on eBay. And then if you keep persisting and keep pushing it, it'll be like a month. And they restrict you heavy. So I don't sell, and they really don't like naked cosplay, topless like cosplayers. They really
Oh.
don't like that because that really pushes the idea of what eBay views as porn. So if you have a like Faces by Rachie, those topless covers, they don't like those.
Hmm.
They don't like those. That will get you a flag in seconds.
Wow, I didn't know that. It does kind of look like porn. Sorry. I may
It,
do one in the future. I may do a cosplay cover because my book's about a cosplayer. I've reached out to a couple cosplayers, but they've all been busy or I didn't get a response, so
it's
whatever.
funny.
But
It's funny. I reached out to a bunch of male cosplayers for my campaign, and only one responded to me, and I was like, I want a male cosplayer because all these people do female cosplayers, and let's fuck this shit up. Let's get funky. And I didn't really get much respect for it. And I thought it was a very respectable thing. I really did. I thought there would have been more support for it. I really thought that people would have put their money where their mouth was. And I
mm,
learned a very valuable lesson that people are full of shit.
oh yes, they certainly are. And anytime you have a new and an innovative idea is when you'll get the most attacked.
And I'm like, great guys, at least I tried. At least I tried. I can say that openly. I could say openly that I tried. And I think in 5 years from now, what I did on Kickstarter will be actually looked back and saying, you had a point. You had a point. You had an idea, and you attempted to do something that, because we are in pay to play. Whether people want to admit it or not, that's up to them, but we are in pay to play.
And now I need to go back and look at your Kickstarter and see what you did.
Oh, I charge for live reads and ad spots as a cut the line mentality. And people really didn't like it. People didn't like it. People didn't seem to appreciate it. And I think people didn't understand that within an hour I could book 150 interviews at any given point. I still can. I know exactly how to book a whole year out. That doesn't mean it'll be the best quality guests. It just means that I legitimately can book 40 wrestlers, 40 cosplayers, and then I could fill the rest up with cosplayers, with comic people. And
Hmm.
I could fill 150 interviews in the next, from today to next year today, I could fill 150 spots in about a week.
I'm gonna have to keep in touch so we keep doing interviews because it would be cool.
There's a reason why I did what I did, and people did not get that I don't have to have you on. And most of the people, and it wasn't even that expensive. It wasn't that fucking expensive, all things considering. And I think people just said, oh, there's a lot of interviews. And I said, that's just it. There's a lot of shows. No shit. That's not an argument. There's a lot of comics. How do you get on people's shows, everybody? Exactly. I don't have an issue of getting guests.
Hmm.
I mean, in certain August is always tough. Next month, I mean, we're in September now, but I'm gonna not have an issue of getting guests this month. The question is that who do I want on my show? And whenever that's what it comes down to, and you'd be surprised. There's plenty of people who I get on my show that people are like, "How'd you do it?" I'm like, "Well, I just asked." But anyway, enough about me. I don't want to pontificate. I've been doing that half this interview. I do want to give you a chance to self-promote yourself. Where can people find you, bother you, hit you up, disturb you, back the campaign, all that fun stuff?
Well, I'll shout out to Divinity Comics, which is our publishing company now that we started with Boobs. So Boobs is our first title, but we have 9, 10, 11, 12 titles just sitting there waiting to be made. One of them is going to come out already. It's almost already done now with all the work. The pencils are done. The colors are about 25% done. I don't remember the number of pages, and that's launching in probably 2 months. And then after that, next year, I mean, we have maybe 3, 4 titles we'd like to do. We enjoy this. I really like what we're doing. It's fun for me. And like kind of to circle around what we talked about before with the 10-year mark, I think that this is finally our, like you said, running a Kickstarter changed the perception of you. It changed the perception of me and what I've been doing for our work too. So this is like the beginning of what Mindy Wheeler will be. And Divinity Comics is our name. So we are also looking for artists all the time. We may not have something available right away. We've been kind of booked out for the next 2 months. But we're looking for artists. We're looking for potentially writers, and back Boobs and have fun. Enjoy the laughs. It's a book to have fun and have laughs with. And if you don't laugh at it, if you can't read the first issue and not smile once, then we probably just won't get along because that book is so ridiculously silly, and the second one is even more ridiculously silly. So that's what I have to say. Mindy Wheeler is just my name. Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You'll find me. Mindy Wheeler Art. I draw books. I draw comics.
Yeah, and then I'm just gonna keep saying it. You have to support indie, and what that means is you got to back people's campaigns, back their Kickstarters, follow them on social media, share out their campaigns, share out their social media posts, interact with them. All that stuff matters. It goes a long way, and it does make a difference. And if you don't particularly like somebody's book, but you like another one of their books, buy that book instead. If you can't, or just give them $1 on Kickstarter or any crowdfunder that they are on. Going beyond that, obviously, with me, I am Pop Anime Comics on X/Twitter, Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook. I do have a YouTube channel. I got like 1,100 plus videos, so there's something for everybody there. A lot of content, a lot of interviews, adding backlog, adding forward log, constantly bringing up older videos and stuff that you might have missed. So again, I got voice actors up there that I've interviewed. I have porn stars that I've interviewed. I have people in the crypto space that I've interviewed, cosplayers, comic people, wrestlers, you name it. And everybody from famous to the superstars of tomorrow have been on my show. So that's something to keep in mind. And I can't say you'll get smarter, but you will be entertained, is what I can say. And if you do actually want to support me, there's a lot of ways how to do that as well. Obviously, social media following is one of the biggest ways how to do it. I do have Buy Me a Coffee, which is totally optional, or you can actually support my business, which is Pop Anime Comics Collectibles, where I will sell you rare books that are hard to find, hard to come by, that are sold out, and I will sell you them at reasonable prices. So that's something too, that if you're looking for like Mount Olympus 1 out of 65s, I have those. I have some other books that are 1 out of 25s. I tend to carry a lot of Zenoscope, Power Hour, Merc Mag, and several other people's books. So, and you never know what's going to come into my store. So that's something to keep in mind. But enough about that. But that's if you're looking for books and anything else. Also, baseball cards, Pop Funkos I carry as well. So keep that in mind. And I have a bunch of people's products coming in the next probably 4 months. I got about $12,000 worth of merchandise that's going to be up on my store. So again, that's probably about 200 new books coming in and out. So again, if that's your jam and you're looking for the book, and if there's a book you're looking for, I can find it for you. I promise. So that's all I'm going to say on that point, and I'm going to give you the final word.
Final word, Boobs 2 is on Kickstarter for the next 16 days, I think. So check it out and join the fun. And Trip's Story, which is a parody of Toy Story, except they're all high, is coming out soon. Thank you for having me.
I couldn't have said that any better myself, everybody, and that is a